Welcome to the Dynasty Happy Hour podcast. Pull up a chair and kick up your feet as you get ready to enjoy some of the industry's most entertaining and actionable Dynasty content on the planet. We're talking veterans, rookies, sleepers, and oh yeah, you know the crew has those dad jokes ready for you. So let's not wait any longer and bring on the host or some combination of Doug, James, and Tyler.
Welcome back to the Dynasty Happy Hour. It is week 11, and we're in heaven because there's no Tyler tonight. He's watching the game with his wife. It's the Team DJ, Team JD, however you want to cut it. It's James and Doug here at the Dynasty Happy Hour tonight. We are going to bring you all the news, all the injury updates, and we're going to chop it up about week 11 because it was an interesting week, needless to say. But before we do all that, first of all, if you like and subscribe on YouTube, thank you very much. And if you're watching, also thank you. Feel free to comment. We'll try to get to the comments as we roll through the podcast. If you got questions, you got comments, all that jazz, let us know. We are here for it. But I do want to let you know that we are brought to you once again by Underdog, the best way to play DFS. I did some prop bets. You know, James, I've come real close to winning a few times. It's usually an injury that takes me out. I picked Devin Achan to rush for over 54 yards today, and he didn't do that. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I seem to get boned out of one of them every single week, so I just need to pick healthier players, I guess. I think at least
that's one of us is getting boned.
Yeah. But yeah, Underdog is absolutely awesome. So you can do player prop bets. You can do a quick draft teams. They have best ball drafts going on, daily pick'ems, all the good stuff. In the offseason, they'll have Best Ball Mania, which was the biggest contest ever. It was a $3 million contest. They'll have that again coming up next year. But if you're not only a fan of football and you want to scratch that itch with other sports, you can do that right now. Hockey, the puck is dropped. Basketball, the tip-off has begun. There's all sorts of ways to play. And if you use code DHH, you can have your deposit up to $100 matched right away. It's free money for you. So get on there. Check out Underdog in your Google Play Store or in the iTunes Store today. Code DHH. Please and thank you in advance. James, what's new in Jersey? How you feeling?
Just getting through the trade week. It was a big trade week, so lost a lot of sleep over it. A lot of different transactions going through. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I got a great one done before this week. Happy about that.
Nice.
Gonna win my home Dynasty League. That's always a benefit. And got the yard cleaned up. If I don't see another leaf until next year,
you're gonna go out tomorrow morning, and you're gonna be like, "There's more leaves."
I'm locking myself in the basement.
I have not touched my yard yet because I look up in the trees and I'm like, "There's way too many leaves in the trees still." So I'm gonna wait till it's almost over and do it all at once, kind of person. So that's what I'm gonna do. Because it's funny story. My wife's aunt, who has a big yard and lots of trees, hours every weekend, and like literally I go over there for football on Sundays typically. She's like, we just spent 3 hours in the yard yesterday and it looks like nobody even touched anything. I go, why wouldn't you just do it all at once? It might be a lot, but it whatever. Different strokes for different folks. I don't want to get into the old leaf cleanup debate. I know we're a couple of dads, but we're not going to chop it up like that. That's a different podcast. We might start leafdads.com, bantheblowers.com. The serenade of the leaf blowers in the morning from the neighbors getting their yard cleaned up is always a good one.
I love it.
There's a town out here in Massachusetts that's actually banned leaf blowers because people were complaining. How 2023 is that? How many Karens are in this town? That's what I need to know.
I don't know. We don't have that in Jersey.
The answer is too many. And speaking of Karens, no, just kidding. I do want to get into some player news. Thursday night was it was a little rough.
It was a bloodbath. Don't sugarcoat it.
It was not great. So Mark Andrews is out for the season, cracked fibula, and he has some ligament damage. Obviously, you hate to see that. He was the tight end, I think, 3 going into that game on the season.
Mm-hmm.
So losing Mark Andrews, the number 1 pass catcher for the Baltimore Ravens is not great. So hopefully you have some tight end depth in those dynasty teams. Hopefully you did a little tight end handcuff action with Isaiah Likely. I have Likely in a couple of leagues. Just because I liked his profile coming out, and he did flash last year, but that was with Tyler Huntley, not with Lamar. So let's remember that.
Fair.
But I think this does open up an opportunity for Zay Flowers to get even more targets. And heck, Odell Beckham Jr. went over 100 yards for the first time since like 1994.
And then got hurt.
And then got hurt. Rashad Bateman scored a touchdown. Like, what do you think about this Ravens passing game sans Mark Andrews?
Like you said, I think it's a great opportunity for Zay Flowers. We saw him, Lamar, spread the ball around quite a bit. Nelson Aguilar got into the end zone. Bateman got into the end zone. Beckham got into the end zone on a long bomb. I'm not really going to shoot my shot with any of them. I did, however, acquire Zay Flowers this week on a great trade that I did.
Okay.
I am not competing. I'm rebuilding. And I got rid of Kenneth Walker, who we'll talk about in a minute, and Nico Collins for T. Higgins, Zay Flowers, and a 2024 second.
Okay.
Desperation knocks. It was a guy, he was the top of the league, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to win." I said, "Throw the pick in and we got a deal."
Yeah,
so,
and sometimes that's all it takes this time of year, because we're coming up on trade deadlines in some leagues. My home league, regular redraft league, was this past Saturday, but a lot of leagues are next weekend. And I'm going to give a little tip. If you're in a dynasty league, there should be no trade deadline. What do you think about that? Obviously, you have to police it. Like, you can't just dump players to guys in the. There has to be some policing of it, but I feel if you have a good group of managers, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm like a mixed bag, because I'm against tanking. Like, for real tanking, not filling up your lineup with starters. And
you should see in the UDPL league. Now he doesn't have any other players, so he's starting Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback and things of that nature. And I think he's got 8 points this week. And he's obviously in the tank for the 101, but he's not benching healthy players. His roster's just.
No, I'm talking about the ones that bench healthy players. Like, you knew Derek Carr is out this week. Take Derek Carr out of your lineup, kind of thing. But I don't know. I think out of this group of guys, Zay Flowers is the guy that jumps off the page for me. I know he hasn't been very consistent as of late, but I think that'll definitely change, and his market value will start to rise towards the end of the year, which is great, because that's what you want to see.
I'm going to wait and see on Likely, because I just don't know if that rapport with Lamar is the same. I mean, Huntley and him he was hyper-targeting Likely a lot. I don't know if Lamar's got that trust level in Isaiah Likely, so that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. I'm not starting Likely until I see it. You should have better tight end options, even if you lost Andrews, than putting Likely right in your lineup. But if you don't and you got to bite the bullet, so be it. I know how it can be. So obviously losing Mark Andrews, and then the other big blow. This was a tough one, because I roster this player in a handful of leagues, and it was Joe Burrow out for the season just when he was getting his momentum going. You know, he started really slow over the first month of the season, and then he was really starting to cook, but he's got a torn wrist ligament in his throwing arm. So obviously there's some fallout here with Jake Browning taking over as the quarterback. You know, they don't have they used to have a good quarterback. I forget what his name, Brandon Allen, maybe?
Brandon Allen.
Yeah, he was decent as their backup, and they moved on to Jake Browning. I think Allen's with San Francisco. But obviously this has big implications for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. We did see Jamar Chase score a touchdown in this game, but that's about all he did. And T. Higgins was out with the hamstring injury. For me, I think this is an interesting one. I don't think they're going to rush T. Higgins back on the field.
No, and they don't need to. I think they just they took themselves out of the playoffs during this game, and it wasn't score related. It's just the simple fact that they're not going to be the same team with Jake Browning under center. Nope. We know that, and the ancillary pieces around him, they're going to suffer. I mean, you could see Joe Mixon having a good game every week, because that's going to be the way they're going to go. Yeah, and I still think Jamar Chase is interesting. Like, you still have to play him. Like, you probably don't have a better option.
I think his floor is probably what we've seen with Garrett Wilson. So probably like 6 for 60. Maybe he has a big game and scores a touchdown, because, I mean, the quarterback play is about the same level. So, I mean, Zach Wilson got benched today. Garrett Wilson had one catch, and then I think he had a fumble or something. He ended up with negative points. But
the biggest implication here, and I'm not talking about them, like, this year's done. Throw this year out the window after this, unfortunately. But the bigger thoughts were, well, what happens to T. Higgins, where, he's
going to get the bag somewhere.
He's going to get the bag somewhere. And I think due to this injury, I mean, you could probably try to go out there and acquire him on the cheap right now,
Yep.
and it will benefit you next year.
There's a lot of teams that could use T. Higgins, and there's a lot of teams that are going to have large salary cap numbers. One that comes to mind is Carolina. I know even the Patriots. I think that Bill Belichick has always been very complimentary of T. Higgins if Bill's the coach next year. And they're going to have a top 3 pick now. The Giants won. Hey, thank you, Giants.
Not yet.
Yeah, so the Pats are going to pick in the top 3, whether that's a quarterback or Marvin Harrison Jr. or probably an offensive lineman from some university you've never heard of. It's going to be an interesting fit there because they need that type of player in their offense. So I think
Saquon balled out today, though, so I'm happy
he did play well. T. Higgins for me is a buy because that next landing spot, he should be able to garner a ton of targets on the team. So I like that. Other injuries that happened today. Devin Achane, everyone was excited for him to come off IR. They got him in their lineup and started him. I had him in DFS, and he hurt himself again. Same leg as before. That was always my concern with Achane is that he's a little bit smaller. He's obviously popped off the page and been awesome when he's playing, but now we're starting to see these injuries come alive, and that was always one of my concerns. And to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of his game anyway, but he's shown out at the NFL level, which is great. The same knee that he injured before, he went out of the game early, did not return. Would not surprise me if it looks like the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs pretty easily at this point. Would not surprise me if Achane goes back on IR for 4 weeks and they try to get him healthy before the playoffs.
Yeah, this was another big blow. I was hoping and praying that Devon Achane was going to be ready to go. And, when someone falls on your knee and it just went through, a pretty big injury, yeah, it sucks. And there's no other way about it. There's going to be a lot of people crying on social media over the weekend into Monday about Devin Achane, and I will definitely be one of them. But, Raheem Mostert, this helps him out. We saw Salvin Ahmed get into the end zone today.
Yep. Jeff Wilson was inactive. He'll be active again next week. But I've always liked Salvin Ahmed. I picked him up for free in Dynasty leagues this year because I've just kind of always liked his game. So it's nice to see him get some run. Other running back injuries, 2 more. We've got Kenneth Walker left the game at the 4:00 game with an oblique injury. Pete Carroll was quoted after the game saying it was serious. Obviously, that opens up our opportunities for Zach Charbonnet.
To get that run. Wine glass open, baby.
I thought Charbonnet looked
be a full glass of fun.
Yeah, sure. I thought Charbonnet has looked good in the run that he's got. So I'm excited to see Charbonnet get 20 touches a game. I don't think they're going to give a lot to DJ Dallas and the other guys they got there. I think they're going to roll with Charbonnet. So I'm excited for that. Ken Walker, he's another guy with his running style. He's got the quick cuts. He runs real hard. We saw him get nicked up last year. He gets dinged up quite a bit. So this will be an injury. I think he'll probably miss at least. They play on Thursday on Thanksgiving. So I don't think there's any way that he plays on Turkey Day. We got to see Zach Charbonnet get stuffed by the Niners instead. So
Charbonnet had a decent game after Walker went out. We'll get into that a little bit later, but he should have been on your roster if you were holding on to Ken Walker this year.
Oh yeah. And I have Charbonnet in one league, and I acquired him post draft because I didn't have any rostership of Charbonnet, and I wanted some, so I got him for a pretty decent price where I got him. And the hopes was like, if Walker gets hurt or whatever, Charbonnet could get run, and that's kind of where I'm at. So here we are. I knew it would happen at some point. Right
before the playoffs.
I know, right? Other running back news: Aaron Jones had a knee injury, didn't look good, towel over the head. Aaron Jones has been one of my favorite NFL players since he got into the league. I picked him in the 3rd round in rookie drafts everywhere in his rookie year. I do not have any Aaron Jones left except for one league that I co-run with a friend of ours. I've dealt all my Aaron Jones when I can, but I still love to watch Aaron Jones play football. He reminds me of a Jamal Charles type. He's just a lot of fun, explosive, great in the passing game, just a really solid, really good NFL player. So if he did, in fact, suffer a major injury, I believe he's probably going to be a free agent next year because he renegotiated his contract big time to stay with Green Bay.
Yeah.
So wouldn't be surprised if they end up letting him go, although I think he's one of the longest tenured Green Bay Packers at this point. So that'll be an interesting situation to monitor. Obviously, this rises the tides for A.J. Dillon.
Again. Yeah.
Again.
He had a little bit of action when Aaron Jones went down. Look for Emmanuel Wilson if you want a little
didn't he get hurt
waiver.
too, though?
Yeah.
I think he got hurt as well. Like, he got carted off too.
He was ruled out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man,
So
who does that leave left?
they have a rookie there.
Kareth White?
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah.
No, there was A.J. Dillon. They had a rookie.
Wasn't it like Patrick something?
Patrick Taylor?
Patrick Taylor.
So interesting. That was a surprise game of the day, and I'm sure we'll talk about it.
But it's going to be the A.J. Dillon show, and he's going to finish the season better than Alexander Madison.
Probably. And then last but not least for injuries, we saw Cooper Kupp go down with a low ankle hamstring type of injury, tried to work through it. He looked like he was in a lot of pain when they were working on him on the side and tried to get back in the game. It was a no-go. The Rams end up coming back and winning the game. Puka has a nice game, but Cooper Kupp, if it's that hammy again, man, I think it's just a lost season for Cooper Kupp. Like, they don't have anything to play for. Yeah. They're not making the playoffs. Like, it's tough. Cooper Kupp looked so good in those first few weeks when he was healthy, getting all the targets and looking really good. And then he's, that's what happens when you get to be a little bit older. Things like this can happen, and especially they get re-aggravated. So that's what looks like what possibly happened with Cooper Kupp today. So
that's not good.
No, and that's not good. Again, another player that you're looking to get back on your team and make an impact. Instead, they come back. This is why I'm scared with Justin Jefferson, and I'm glad he didn't come back this week. A, because he was going to be locked up by Patrick Surtain the second. That was a tough matchup. So I think it's smart for the Vikings to be like, give him another week, because they could run him out there. He's going to be running routes, but he's probably not going to catch many passes against Surtain because he's been really, really good. So I think that was smart of the Vikings. But I'm always scared of guys like, Jefferson that's missed now 5-6 weeks, however many it is, because the chance for re-injury, I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but it's one of those things you get lifted up by, like, I'm going to get Justin Jefferson back, or I'm going to get Devin Achane back, and then, oh, he's hurt again. Like,
yeah,
it's a kick in the nuts. So,
it's the worst.
I never like that. So any thoughts on any of these injuries before we skedaddle and move it along, James?
No, I think we touched on them pretty well. Yeah, let's move on.
Let's move on. Before we move on, I do want to give a shout out to our longest standing sponsor in the room, Trophy Smack. They make the best trophies and belts in the business, not only for fantasy football, which we play, but if you've got the aforementioned hockey and basketball seasons going on, or you just wrapped up fantasy baseball, you can go get your trophy at trophysmack.com. And when you do that, not only can you do a fully customizable trophy or belt, you can use code DHHRING. You'll get a free $60 championship ring with the purchase of a trophy or belt. They also have stuff for all the losers in your league. We love those losers in the league that have to do their punishments. They've got punishment stuff. You want to have want to wear a toilet seat? You can do that. Go on Trophy Smack. They're branching out into other products, which are really cool with some different wall art and things of that nature. They make really good draft boards. So when draft season comes along, you can get a draft board from them, which is a lot of fun. It's got some cool Smack Talk stickers on it. Not a single write-in sticker, which is the first time ever that I can remember doing a draft.
I did.
Where we didn't have a write-in. It's either at Scott Fishbowl or my home redraft league.
Michael Wilson wasn't there.
Michael Wilson? No, he was on there.
Michael Wilson. Yeah.
No, he had a sticker.
Well, I didn't have a Michael Wilson sticker.
No, they deleted yours. I'm pretty sure he had one, but
maybe it's because I pre-ordered.
Maybe they made some edits. I don't know, but it's a really good draft board. So yeah, just check out all the cool wares they have at trophysmack.com. Use code DHH. Get that free $60 championship ring when you order a trophy or a belt. Let's go. All right, let's talk about week 11. There's a lot to take in about week 11. The first thing I want to talk about, James,
let's do
it. Kenny Pickett is bad.
Yeah.
His ceiling is like 175 passing yards. He's not turning the ball over, which is good. But with all those weapons, I know Cleveland's got a great defense. But man, Kenny Pickett, he can't be the guy going forward, right? Like, can't be.
And no, I don't think he is. I really don't.
They've got outgained in every single game. I don't know if they got outgained in this one, but they've been outgained in every single game this year. And they just don't have the offensive juice with Kenny Pickett to put up big points or to put up big yards. The only big playmaker they had today was Jaylen Warren, who's awesome, by the way.
Yes.
If you picked him up in your dynasty leagues last year,
check.
Congrats. He's a difference maker. He looks different on the field than everybody else.
Yeah.
Pickett, if you're a Pickens owner, a Deontay owner, a Freiermuth owner, you're praying to the quarterback gods that they do something in the offseason. And I don't know if they're going to move on from Pickett that early. He was a first-round pick. He's going into year 3.
I think he still has 2 more years left before they even consider making a move, unfortunately. So their feet are kind of stuck in the mud here with Kenny Pickett, and
I'd draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to, if not this year, definitely next year. And I think they're stuck in their ways. They went out, they drafted him in the first round. They thought he was the perfect fit for their offense. And
I mean, maybe it's a Matt Canada problem because he's a terrible play caller.
I mean, every Steelers fan in their existence will turn around and say that it's a Matt Canada problem.
Send Matt to Canada, the CFL. That's where they need him to go.
Get him out of there.
He's bad. I mean, maybe that's the problem. Maybe Pickett's just not opened up because Canada's too conservative. Could be that.
Maybe Jalen Warren was the only one that went out there and actually, did some damage on the field today. Maybe because he is the only true playmaker on the offense. And he was the only one that can improvise enough to get himself a good fantasy day.
Yep. So, yeah. That's all I got for the Steelers game. And the Browns, DTR played okay, didn't turn the ball over, but
1 interception.
Oh, that's right.
On the
and the breaking news, the Cleveland Browns just signed Joe Flacco to the practice squad, and it looks like he'll be elevated to the roster. That gives some juice to the offense.
Yeah, it does.
Low key, I thought Flacco was decent with the Jets last year.
Yeah. I mean, he was better than Zach Wilson.
I mean, I'm better than Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
True.
So, yeah. So I actually picked up Flacco in a Superflex league this week because I saw that he was in for a visit. I had some roster spots open. I was like, you know what?
They said that they weren't going to sign him.
No, they just announced that they're going to sign him to the practice squad, and it looks like he'll be elevated to the game roster next week.
Oh, it was like that's like true breaking news.
As we went on, true breaking news, Shefty style.
Oh, Shefty style.
Yep. So yeah, Flacco's that'll be interesting. At least that gives hope to guys like Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, who obviously Flacco played with last year.
And
so maybe they have some nice report. I mean, Njoku got targeted to hell today. Didn't do a lot with it, but
15 targets for Njoku. Wow.
For 55 yards. Rookie quarterback problems. James, what did you see this week that you want to talk about?
Let's go into one of the best games of the week, and I think that was Detroit and Chicago. And the one thing I want to point out again is that Gibbs and Montgomery are living together happily in this Detroit Lions family that they're doing here. They both get into the end zone today. Gibbs had the bigger day with the receptions. I like this offense. I'm sorry. I know they played the Chicago Bears, but Detroit, they were getting their butts whipped a little bit, and they had to turn it on in the second half at the end of the fourth quarter, rather, just to get the win. And they do so here. I think it's a group effort from special teams to defense to offense. And Jared Goff is just playing with such poise that it shouldn't go unnoticed. The season that Jared Goff has been putting out lately. And I have him in a couple of leagues. I don't think I have him in any dynasty leagues, but I kind of wish I did.
I have Goff in the comic book league that we're in. I did trade Goff in a league as well. So yeah, but I bought Goff low a couple of years ago because his cheap when he went from the Rams to the Lions, that price was very palatable. Tyler and I actually swung a deal and got Jared Goff. I think we got him for a second, which was a late second because I think we won the league that year. So it was like an end of the second for Goff, and that was a lifesaver for us last year. We co-champed the league last year, which was great. But, Goff, I mean, the turnovers today were a little uncharacteristic.
Yes.
For him. But to come back in that game and win, Jamison Williams showed signs of life for once.
Had another touchdown.
Had a touchdown. Amon-Ra does his thing. The running backs were pretty split. The 8-2. Did you know it's the first time the Lions have been 8-2
since the 60s?
John F. Kennedy was president. 1962, James. Huh. We were just imaginary things floating around in 1962. That's wild to me that it's taken them that long to become 8-2. And they've got a really juicy playoff schedule too. So if you have the Lions, one of my redraft teams, I have Goff, I have Gibbs and Amon-Ra, and they have a really nice playoff schedule. A lot of home games, a lot of inside games, good opponents. You could be riding the Lions to fantasy victory, which is something we haven't said since the Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, Scott Mitchell days. If you remember that team of Lions, that was good for fantasy. Brett Perriman as well. So that's
Name dropper.
yeah. Hey, I'm old school, man. You see these gray hairs? You see these gray hairs, James? I've seen.
Oh
things.
yeah.
I've seen
Salt
things.
and pepper, baby. Salt and pepper.
For the Bears, though, so there was news this week that the Bears said unless someone was super impressive, that they weren't going to move on from Justin Fields. I thought he played really well today. 100 yards on the ground. Did well through the air on his first game back in well over a month. So for me, if I'm
made
the Bears,
DJ more relevant again.
Yep. If the Bears, they're going to have 2 top 5-ish picks, give or take. Would you use one of those on a quarterback, or would you just roll with Justin Fields?
Oh, it's so tough.
Right?
They're most
I don't want to give up on
Fields. I don't want to give up on Fields yet. And the only way you do that, like you don't. I think they trade one of those picks away and get more picks down the road, or get like a smash offensive lineman and maybe a receiver. You know, that maybe they go early and take Marvin Harrison, you know, and just burst the Giants bubble. So who knows?
You want to know a fun Chicago Bears receiving fact? Sure. So Justin Jefferson has more career yards receiving in 3 years than any Bear has in the history of that franchise.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's absolutely a bonkers stat. So, yeah, the Bears receivers, they're not from a long line of really good players.
Yeah, no. I don't
Booker,
remember. I don't remember.
Alshon Jeffrey,
too many. Yeah, Alshon Jeffrey.
Brandon Marshall for a couple of years.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, not so great. Chase Claypool. Wait a minute, what?
But for fantasy purposes, like Dynasty in particular, I think Justin Fields, you were hoping that he would come back and put up a good game. And Detroit's defense isn't anything to sleep on. Like Chicago almost won this game. And I think they're just going to continue to get better as Khalil Herbert gets back on the field more. We saw Deontay Foreman score in this game. So I don't think he goes away. They were giving it to him on the goal line. And that's what I like about Foreman. He's almost like a Gus Edwards, if you will. And that's pretty much the story on this one.
Yeah. What else you got?
What else? Let's talk about my favorite rookie in CJ Stroud, how he threw 3 interceptions today against the Arizona Cardinals. But guess what? Still over 336 yards, put 2 touchdowns up in the air. Perfect. And his bunkmate, Tank Dell, yeah, he's going to be a star. I think these two are going to be like
peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I made a trade in redraft because I was trying to shore up my wide receiver depth, and I traded Tank Dell and a future pick for Jalen Waddle and a future pick, and now I'm like, can I get Tank Dell back?
Yeah.
I mean, he's my wide receiver 3. It's not going to kill me, but I'm like, and I'm 9-1, so whatever. But I'm like, now Dell's popped off since I've traded him, and I was like, he's just giving me the finger is what he's doing.
Yeah, I was afraid when Nico Collins came back into the offense that it may put Tank Dell reverting back into the second spot, but
nope.
They made such a connection and they've got on the right page while Nico Collins was out, while Robert Woods was out, and it's not going to go anywhere from now on. Tank Dell is the number 1 receiver in this offense. You want parts of this offense too. Like Nico Collins isn't going to be a bad play. Like we even saw Dalton Schultz score a touchdown, which, you know, we should have picked him up in the offseason.
Yeah.
And then Singletary had another great game. I called it on this morning's show that Singletary was going to have another great game.
Yeah, Arizona Cardinals
get into the end zone, and he did.
Yeah, that was a smash matchup, especially for DFS.
Yeah. On the other side of the ball, Kyler Murray, he looked good. No, like 1 interception, 1 fumble. Okay, second game back. I get it. But he's back to himself. 7 carries for 51 yards.
Touchdown.
That's what we like about Kyler Murray, that he will run the ball. He was not running scared. Did throw a touchdown. He got did he have a touchdown with his legs?
He got the Rondale. Yeah, he ran for one and had the Rondale Moore 48-yarder.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned with
Moore, two touchdowns today.
Did Moore have 2 touchdowns?
I thought he had one through the air and then one.
I think he only had 1, but I could be wrong. I'm a little concerned though
you're right.
with Hollywood Brown. Maybe it's because Stingley is back and he locked up Hollywood Brown. Maybe Hollywood Brown's days are coming, but these last 2 weeks with Kyler, I mean, Greg Dortch led the team in targets today, which that's a name you haven't heard in a minute. Shout out to Riley Bymaster, big Greg Dortch fan. as well as Noah Brown. He loves those guys. So for me, I'm a little concerned with Hollywood. We've seen 2 weeks now. The target share is not great. Trey McBride has a solid game, all things considered, for a tight end. He was still a top 12 tight end. So there's still a shining bright for Trey McBride. I'm interested to see this offense. They picked up Michael Carter, who got waived, and he's on the roster, but he was inactive today, probably just getting used to the playbook and things like that. But I think Michael Carter could be an awesome complement to James Conner down the stretch. I really like Michael Carter. I always have. I think the Jets just didn't use him the way that they should have. We obviously saw Breece Hall today more active in the passing game without Michael Carter on the roster. He gets a receiving touchdown. Their only touchdown today.
Their only touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, and Breece looks good. It's just a shame that this is going to be. He'll still be good for fantasy, but I think the Breece Hall explosion comes next year when they have Aaron Rodgers under center, or in a few weeks when he's under center. Probably not. But I like how Breece Hall, they used him in the passing game a lot. I think that he has the ability to do that, and it made sense. I was surprised that they did cut Michael Carter, though. But I'm looking forward to if he can dig out a role with the Cardinals, and he's still on his rookie deal. So Carter and
we'll
Connor.
See what happens. Yeah.
I low-key dig that. But, yeah, I'm worried about Hollywood Brown. I think that you can't start him. I mean, unless you have, some buys or anything like that. I just think that.
I mean, it's going to be matchup. It's gonna be based off the matchup, and hopefully you didn't pay a lot for him if you did go out and try to get him. But I think there's better days on the horizon. Houston's cornerbacks are actually very, very sneaky. They're top 12. I believe they're top 12 in the league against perimeter wide receivers. So that is something to think about as well. And you know what? It's just not his week yet. I'm sure that they will start to connect on a more regular basis. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, we have not seen it yet. I want to talk a little bit about the Chargers-Packers game.
Sure.
We saw Aaron Jones get hurt, obviously. Jordan Love looked pretty dang good against the Chargers. The Chargers lose this game.
Two fumbles from Jordan Love. And they still won.
If I'm a Chargers fan, I'm yanking all of my hair out. Because, again, you have a super talented roster, and you do nothing with it. Yep. You lose against the Packers, who are, by all means, not a good team. They're 4-6. Now the Chargers are 4-6. I mean, we're going to see an AFC probably without the Bengals in the playoffs or the Chargers. That's wild to me. Absolutely wild.
And it gets worse. 6 targets for Quentin Johnston, and he only caught 2 of them for 21 yards. He was wide open. And he dropped pretty much a well-needed first down, and all the pressure was put on him, and he crumbled. So I'm happy I did not acquire any of Quentin Johnston.
I only have him in one spot, and I got him at the 110, and I was like, well, I don't own him anywhere else. We'll do it just in case he pops. He's not popping.
Yeah, no.
He's the popcorn that's left in the bottom of the bag. That rolls around, that's unpopped. That's Quentin Johnson. He is bottom of the bag popcorn.
And if you did what I did this season and traded for Keenan Allen, you are happy you did so.
Yeah, I picked him up.
16 targets.
Oh, yeah. He was a beast again. I picked him up in an auction from one of my home dynasty leagues and in redraft. I have him in I'm only in 2 redraft leagues. I have him in 2 redraft leagues because I knew at his ADP, I was with Kellen Moore and Allen, I was like, he's my guy. And I've got him as my wide receiver 2 or 3 in each of those leagues. So, yes, very happy with Keenan Allen. But for the Packers, you know who looked best on offense today, Jay? I give you a guess. Who do you think it is?
Oh, it's our boy Jaden Reed.
Oh, it is our boy Jaden Reed. Not only did he have 3 carries.
That's who rushed in for a touchdown.
He had 3 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown, and then had another 4 catches on 6 targets for 46 yards. This is the second week in a row that he scored. Going into the draft process, I was able to get him in the late 2nd, early 3rd. And for me, it was I like the player. I like the draft capital. I like the opportunity. You had Watson, you had Romeo Doubs, but there was no one there in the slot. And Jaden Reed is versatile. You can move him around, and he is becoming a trusted target of Jordan Love. Christian Watson, not so much. I know he gets he got a short passing touchdown today, or a reception rather, but that's about it. Watson is frustrating. He popped off last year, right? Then he starts the year hurt. Then he comes back. No Aaron Rodgers, obviously. he's an athletic freak, but I just don't know, like, what would you value him at in Dynasty? Like a mid-second right now?
A
Would you pay that?
late second, maybe an early third.
Ooh, that seems really low.
Yeah, I'm not happy with
I'm
Christian
not
Watson.
going out and acquiring him. Let's put it that way.
I'm not happy with his second year progression.
Nope.
I'm definitely not happy with the quarterback play because he's getting beat by guys like Jaden Reed and Romeo Dobbs. And he was supposed to be that guy, and you spent draft capital on Christian Watson, and unfortunately, you're gonna have to suck it up now because you really can't do anything with him. He's a hold.
Yeah, I mean, Dontavian Wicks has 91 yards, Reed has 46, Christian Watson has 21 on 4 targets. So he was like 5th on the team in targets because Luke Musgrave got 6 targets. He didn't do much with them. But like for me,
He
I
caught
don't
4
know.
balls.
Yeah, I mean 4 for 28. He didn't. I mean, it didn't set the world on fire. But I mean, look at it this way: Christian Watson had as many targets as AJ Dillon. That's a problem. Just saying. Do not like. It's bad. James, what else you got? Talk about your Giants, Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, Tommy D getting in there.
Get that dub with Tommy D.
It was more like get that dub with Saquon Barkley, man, because 14
too.
carries, 83 yards, 4 receptions, 57 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man.
We saw the not so great Sam Howell today.
Yeah, it always seems to start out that way. Like, to be honest, like
he struggled against the Giants last time, right? That was like his worst game. Was that against the Giants or was that against the Cowboys?
I believe it was against the Giants. Yeah.
I think it was too. He was awful in that game.
22 for 42. In this game, he was 31 for 45. Only difference is he threw 3 interceptions in this game. And
I mean, that's the Sam Howell experience. Let's be honest. He is going to have those 2 and 3 interception games, but
I think he makes them. He's like the perfect fantasy quarterback if you really think about it, because even though he makes those mistakes, he puts his team so far behind that he has no choice but to throw it a ton, especially in the fourth quarter.
You know what that's called? That's called Blake Bortles.
Oh, God.
That's Blake Bortles. Because that's what Blake Bortles used to do. He is. But that's exact. So Blake Bortles was mobile. He would get you some rushing touchdowns and some rushing yards. Blake Bortles was always playing from behind. Fourth quarter garbage time king. Blake Bortles. The year that you had Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, they both went for 1,000 yards.
Maybe he is Blake Bortles.
Maybe he's a better Blake Bortles. That's a triple B for you. Better.
Yeah, but
Blake
the Giants got it done today. Mainly through Saquon Barkley. Darius Slayton caught a touchdown. You love to see it. It was on a long one, but unfortunately got hurt afterward. That wasn't in the injury report. I didn't really think it was that relevant to bring up.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game was a knife fight. It really was. For a second, I thought Washington was going to come back and win.
Yeah.
He threw like so many interceptions, and the last one to give up the end of the game was just
yeah. The real interesting thing in this was no Antonio Gibson this week, and we saw Brian Robinson lead the team in targets with 9, catching 7 balls for 58, and then having another 73 on the ground. Brian Robinson in the passing game, this is like AJ Dillon. They're like,
2 weeks in a row now. 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, he had over 100 yards receiving last week.
Don't play him next week against Dallas, thow.
Probably not,
because these stats are going to change.
So I think that's interesting with no Gibson, the usage that Brian Robinson has had. Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be their starting running back going forward, I would imagine. Antonio Gibson, I believe, is a free agent at the end of the season. Robinson's on the second year of his deal. Ride out a rookie running back and quarterback, man, and then invest elsewhere. I think that's what Washington's going to do.
Yeah, and Chris Rodriguez had a fumble, I believe, early in this one that cemented Brian Robinson just staying in the game the entirety.
Yeah, Rodriguez only saw 6 carries. He did have 43 yards on it, which isn't terrible. But yeah, that was like you said, it was a bit of a knife fight there in Washington. James, what else you got this week? We got a few more things, and then we're going to get out of here.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence knows how to play football again.
I mean, the Titans are a good remedy for that.
Yeah.
Their secondary, not good. Even Calvin Ridley had a big game.
Yeah. No, Calvin Ridley had a monster game, probably the best game of his season. And it can't go unnoticed. He had 1 carry for 18 yards, but through the air, 7 receptions, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, this is the game that Calvin Ridley managers were waiting for all year long, and he probably wasn't. He probably wasn't in your starting roster.
I was like, man, Tennessee's a sieve. He should have a good game, and I'm like, I can't trust him. And then I bench him, and then he pops off. So such is life.
I don't know if I trust him going down the stretch, but if your trade deadlines have not passed, try to use this to possibly get him off your squad. I mean, he's 28 years old. He's going into his second contract. That's an iffy situation because he has not performed up to the level that we thought he would. It was he won this game by far, but another quiet game for Travis Etienne.
Yeah,
Kind of a
ETN's
quiet
been
day
kind of
for
tweaks
Christian
recently.
Kirk, Zay Jones, amongst all the domestic violence disputes. He's still on the field, so right on. On the other side of the ball, DeAndre Hopkins, 4 receptions. That's not really what you want. Did score a touchdown.
Yeah, that Titans passing game with Levis
Is Henry
just...
dead? Is Henry dead? I really hope not, because his playoff run looks so sweet, but 10 for 38. Come on.
I mean, just that offensive line is very, very bad. They've got a rookie quarterback. I mean, Henry,
he's most likely done after this season.
At least for this year. Yeah, I still think he's a good player. I just think that...
Well, I'm playing him next week against Carolina. I'm not taking him out of my roster against Carolina.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that makes sense.
A turtle can run on Carolina.
That is true. Speaking of Carolina, I mean, they were in the game for a little bit. Bryce Young didn't make too many mistakes. I've been watching some Bryce Young tape in this past week. I actually made a trade.
Getting ready to buy low?
I already did. So I traded away Josh Dobbs. I traded away, I forget who else I traded away. It was a deal with Tyler in the UDPL league.
Okay.
And I got Bryce Young back. And for me, it was like Demario Douglas, Dobbs, and someone else. So for me, I look at it this way. I picked up Josh Dobbs for free. Yeah. I picked up Demario Douglas for free after the draft. And I forget the other player that I put in there. It was a good player. But
and you turned it into Bryce Young?
I turned it into Bryce Young. And I'm happy with that because, on that team, now I have Joe Burrow, who's done for the year. I'm not competing, by the way. My team was good. I have the most points against and the 5th most points in the league. My team should be like 6-3, 7-2, but I've just got run over in some weeks. So my team's been scoring, but I've been losing. So I've slowly sold off my older pieces, my Joe Mixons, my Cortland Suttons, my Logan Thomases, my Jimmy Garoppolos. They're all gone. And I've got some younger players. I've got Garrett Wilson. I've traded for Drake London. I've traded for Bryce Young. So now I'm kind of I'm mulling. Not mulling. What am I doing?
You're in limbo until they all hit.
What's that thing you do in the garden? I'm tilling over the roster. I'm turning it over. But I've still got pieces that I'm building. I have Jamar Chase. I have Garrett Wilson. I have Drake London. I have Joe Burrow. I have Sam Laporta. I have pieces to build around. I'm going to have the 105 most likely in the rookie draft. I have multiple seconds, multiple thirds, things of that nature. So there's still hope for me. But getting Bryce Young was buying him low because I looked at it this way. I picked up Dobbs and Douglas as free agents. I hit on them. Cool. Now I'm going to turn them into the first overall pick in the NFL draft. He's having a struggle bus. I don't think the situation's great. They have tons of cap money. They can bring in playmakers. They can get rid of Frank Reich. He's bad. Yeah. Get a new play caller in there. We've seen rookie quarterbacks struggle in their rookie years. Trevor Lawrence, that's one. Like these guys with good pedigrees coming out. I don't think Bryce Young.
Zach Wilson. Oh, wait a minute.
I mean, you can flip both sides of the coins, but I like Bryce Young, and for that price, I'm willing to roll the dice. And now I have Joe Burrow, Sam Howell, and Bryce Young as my 3 quarterbacks, and I'm okay with that for now.
Yeah,
I have the 105. I don't have to press myself to get a quarterback. I don't have to press to get a receiver. There's not going to be a running back worth the 105. So for me, it's like, all right, I can go best player available truly at that spot to make my roster better.
It's a good way to invest some of those pieces that, like you said, you acquired for free for the most part. And yeah, I agree with you that, his story hasn't been written yet. There's still somewhat of a future for him. Can't go off of the first season in the NFL. However, season 2 is going to be that straw to break. On the other side of the ball, Tony Pollard finally broke the curse of getting into the end zone. And if he wasn't going to do it against Carolina, man, it's icky for Tony Pollard. I mean, it did great, over 5 a carry. They didn't have to do much to beat the Carolina Panthers. Dak did his thing, spread the ball around a little bit. We see what CD got in the end zone. Cook's second receiver on the team. And then Schoonmaker, the rookie, got into that, which was nice to see. That he's going to be a part of the offense, I think, moving forward. So I'm happy with that.
I have the full details of that trade. I left out some pieces. So
Sure.
I'll just go over it real quick. So I traded away Joshua Dobbs, Najee Harris, Demario Douglas, and a 2024 round 3 for Bryce Young and Antonio Gibson.
Okay.
I'm kind of done with Najee, like especially with the rise of Jalen Warren. Najee's a startable piece, but
he's a ticking time bomb. And with Pittsburgh not most likely going to win this season,
it's still playoff bound, but we'll see what happens.
For now.
So for me, is like I've moved on from Najee. It is what I like Antonio Gibson, so getting him back was kind of part of the deal. Is to get a startable piece. Obviously not this week because he was hurt, but so that was the full deal. But Bryce Young is obviously the big piece in that one, which was I don't have Bryce Young anywhere, so it was kind of nice getting a little Bryce Young share action in there.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. I got one more thing here.
Tampa Bay and San Francisco.
I mean, that's pretty standard stuff. Brock Purdy's back. This is after the bye.
It was the first
2 weeks in a row.
perfect game by a San Francisco quarterback since Steve Young, I believe.
What, quarterback rating?
Yes. He threw a
158.3.
Yep.
Yeah. I used to go for those in Madden all the time because, you'd be like 20 of 21 for like 5 touchdowns. But yeah, so, I mean, San Francisco's, they looked good against Tampa. Tampa Bay lost even more players in their secondary. They are going to be, if you've got a quarterback or a receiver up against Tampa Bay down the stretch, that's winning because they are an absolute pass funnel. They're pretty solid against the run. They cannot defend against the pass. Brock Purdy ate them alive with Kittle, Ayuk, Debo came back. McCaffrey was in action. Like Ayuk had his highest yardage total. That's another player that's probably going to be on another roster next year. Unless they figure that out. But Ayuk is an awesome talent. I wish the Pats picked the right ASU receiver, but I know different years and whatnot. I'm over it. Not much. The Buccaneers, I mean, Rachaad White's still super active in the passing game. He gets a touchdown. He's been, dare I say, really good in fantasy for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been getting 100 yards from scrimmage and a score pretty much every week. Now, he got 60 yards from scrimmage, but 6 receptions and a score on the ground. Like, that's all you need from Rachaad White. He's a high-end RB2, sometimes an RB1. I'm starting to get concerned with Chris Godwin, though.
Yeah.
The receptions are good. The yards, not so much. He hasn't had a good game in a month now. Mike Evans is the one scoring the touchdowns. It hasn't been Chris Godwin. Godwin is like borderline startable.
Yeah. I mean, you really can't do too much with it. I mean, he's still getting this targets. Unfortunately, he could not do anything against the San Francisco defense with them. Yeah. And speaking of the San Francisco defense, word on the street for those DFS. Tufanga. Yeah, for those IDP players, Talanoa Hufanga looks like an ACL tear.
Yeah.
So
was it on the play that Rachaad White juked him out of his sneakers? I hope not.
I hope not.
Because it looked like he had him one-on-one and White put his foot in the ground, did a little, and then Tufanga was like,
yeah, I don't know. I was actually eating dinner while this game was going on, and probably while that injury happened.
If you saw the injury, you would have been like, "You mother Tufanga." It's just a fun name to say. Trey Palmer continues to get targets. He had 6. Almost had a nice contested catch. That's a guy that I love. If you can get him,
go out and get Trey Palmer. Yes,
I like Trey Palmer a lot. Mike Evans probably not going to be on this team next year. Let's be honest. So it could be Trey Palmer and Godwin, and then Kate Otten led the team in receiving. He's flashed a little bit, so definitely a new regime there in the passing game. We talked about the Seahawks with Ken Walker's injury. Not too much. That game was kind of boring and slow. The Rams do end up winning it. Puka ends up having a nice game. He scores right before the half and then has 4 or 5 more catches in the second half.
DK Metcalf finally came back to life. So
2
we
weeks
like
in a
to
row.
see that. Yeah.
It's nice. DK is only his 3rd touchdown in the year, so he was due for some positive regression.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think Geno Smith kind of forced the ball a little bit too much to Jackson Smith and Jigba in this one.
Yeah.
Just doesn't look like he's on the same page. He got injured in this one, and then
JSN did have a nice catch along the sideline. It didn't count because he didn't get his second foot in, but it was a nice like drop it right in the bucket type of play. So I mean, JSN's getting a steady targets. So I still like JSN as a guy that you can acquire cheaper than what you drafted him for. So I like that a
That's
lot.
fair. That's fair.
I don't want to talk about the Jets because they're just cheeks, but the Bills' offense today.
All you got to do is fire a coach, apparently.
Right? I mean, it
Players
was the Jets.
start-
I get it. But, I mean,
Players
Khalil
start playing
Shakir
better.
has that long touchdown. I was able to pick him up a few weeks ago in a couple Dynasty leagues, which surprised me he was even available. Did you know, I haven't fact-checked myself, but it feels
81-yard touchdown.
It feels like in the last 3 weeks to a month, Khalil Shakir has had the most fantasy points for receivers of the Bills.
Ooh.
Feel free to fact-check me because Diggs hasn't done much. Shakir has scored, I think, in 3 out of the last 4 games. Or 3 out of the last 5. So, Shakir's been decent.
False. I'll fact check you on that.
Okay.
He's only scored 1 touchdown.
No, I don't believe it.
Since today was his first touchdown since week 2.
Was it really?
The Raiders.
Maybe it's yardage then. Maybe he's had a decent yardage game. So.
Yeah, no. He definitely has some big playability. 6 for 92, 4 for 57, and then obviously today with the big one.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I was a little over my skis on Khalil Shakir there. But I like Shakir going forward. I just don't think Gabe Davis is the answer across from Diggs.
No, he didn't get 1 target today.
He's been trash over the last month.
I thought he was going to have a good game because I had to put him in my lineup, and I didn't want to.
Yeah, you're like,
yeah,
please have a good game. I started Shakir in DFS because I was like, well, the Jets usually lock up outside receivers. Let's go slot. So I put Shakir in because he was dirt cheap. That panned out.
Yeah, no, and it definitely held true. Like we saw Diggs have a bad game. We saw Davis not even get targeted. I believe Kincaid led the team in receptions and targets.
Yep.
And then James Cook had a pretty good game on the ground, 17 for 73.
And he didn't fumble. And he
didn't
did have a receiving
fumble.
touchdown, so that was nice.
Yeah, that was a nice play. It was good to see him finally get into the end zone. We haven't seen that since week 7 against New England. So I was getting a little nervous, and I'm a little mad that I traded him away in one of my redraft leagues for Hollywood Brown.
Doesn't look so good now, but hey, maybe by the end of the year it'll pan out.
It may. Arizona has a good schedule moving forward for receivers.
Yes. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up week 11. I did want to give a shout out to Manscaped. Make sure you check out their awesome products. You see this lovely trimmed beard? It's with my lawnmower 4.0. Obviously, I trim this beard. I trim that beard. I trim all the beards, not at the same time. I wash it in between. You gross people that think that. I can see Tyler being like, "Oh, but you do. What do you shave first?" Because that's how Tyler does it. But no, Manscaped is an awesome product. You're going to get the ear and nose trimmer. You're going to get the things that are going to make you feel good, smell good, and just bring up that confidence. You can walk into a room buck naked. You're going to smell good. You're going to look like $1,000, you're going to look like a dolphin. That's how good the Manscaper is. So make sure you check that out. Code DHH to save you 20% at Manscaped. James, anything else before we wrap it up?
Nope. I think we're good. Let's get out of here, man.
All right, let's skedaddle. We got things to do. There's a game going on. We got some things to do. So we'll be back next week. Tyler says hi. Make sure you drop a like I said, on YouTube, and subscribe. Check us out on the Google Play Store as well as on iTunes. Wherever podcasts are, you'll find us. Leave us a review and a rating. We always appreciate the feedback. And let's get some comments. It's been, I know during the season for Dynasty is a little, not as chatty, but if you're tuning in, ask us some questions. We'd love to answer them while we're on the microphone. I know I'm looking forward to week 12 as we get closer and closer to the playoff push and the playoff picture. I'm competitive in a lot of my Dynasty leagues, thankfully, so I'm looking forward to it. So with that said, he's been James, I've been Doug. This has been the Dynasty Happy Hour. We will see you next week.